Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. It ain't your boy, it's your man's, the blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media, signing, blacking, and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Gentlemen, you're hearing a lot of, or you're seeing, or probably hearing and seeing by reading, a lot of statuses and posts and a lot of commentators, real and virtual, telling you that that black men aren't protecting black women and that we never have, and that we've always been uncaring and unconcerned, and we just don't love black women and that sort of thing. And I've mentioned before how really and in fact black women are about as protected as other women are. The thing is that traditionally speaking, in Western and Eastern Africa, and even in Southern Africa, African women, because of much of the autonomy that is in African cultures with an S, because remember, it's not one culture. Even we may tend to forget, and there have been people on the continent that tend to forget the diversity of their own continent. But because of the actual autonomy that is enjoyed by the women in many of the cultures, and it's okay provided it's not abused as with anything else, they have their own initiatives. In Liberia, many of the women took up the initiatives of refraining from sex with their husbands in order to stop the civil war from restarting after it had ended the first time. There were some skirmishes, and those whose husbands were involved said, "We're going to put this to a stop." And I don't know how successful that initiative was, and I don't even know how necessary it was. What I'm saying is that they were able to come up with this on their own. Now, of course, they did not seek out the permission of Liberian men. This is still a society in which men are seen as the final authorities. But does this mean that they hate the women and the women hate them? No. It's not really a power struggle. The women still have autonomy. But what they do, they answer for. They deal with the consequences of what they do. End of story. That's fair. We're dealing with a scenario in the United States that is very different. What they do is they have agency and autonomy and they demand it, and then they take no accountability for the results. They'll take credit but never blame or responsibility for the results that were unwanted. And they don't want to hear you mention it either. Don't say anything about it. They run the community, but they deserve no blame for the hardships that people go through unnecessarily in our communities. This is why it is that we have we have this anger and this angst that we've got. And so when they're sitting up and they're saying that we don't protect them, we get angry naturally because, for one, they have autonomy. They don't owe us anything. Us being too close and nearby when we don't know them can be taken as some sort of infringement on their privacy, and they don't owe us even proximity. They don't even owe us permission to get that close, right? So we may not be close enough to not only protect, we may not be close enough to know they need protection, and we're still to blame for that. But then some of them will sit up and say, and Sergeant Willie Peters mentioned this before, that we are to be the attack dogs. That this is not about really us protecting them when they get attacked at times. This is also about us protecting them when they get rambunctious. So if a 17-year-old sister, messy and still in a teenage phase, talking bad about people, decides that she big and bad because nobody's checked her, especially chin checked her, and she runs up on a much taller and bigger and older adult white male and gets knocked unconscious with one blow, it's our fault, even though we were nowhere nearby. And one of the things we have to admit is that everybody knows this. Everyone understands. You can't tell the American sister a damn thing. Same in the UK. You can't tell her nothing. This is what they've chosen as a reputation. This is their calling card. This is that for which they are known. that for which they are famous or infamous around the world. The Western woman does not listen, but the Western sister will actually argue with you. And so it actually, she becomes this extra shield behind which the Western white woman can hide. But then when there's some need for protection and we don't even know about it because we're not anywhere nearby, or we're nearby but we don't know them and therefore we don't even have that right to get that close and get involved, then we're to blame. And they want to tell you, brothers, that you are the embarrassment of the world, and that other men look at you as weak. That is not the case. I know when we go abroad, they don't look at us as necessarily weak. They look at us, if they're even thinking about what we have to deal with domestically, they're actually thinking with sympathy, like, wow, this is what they got to deal with, because we know they look and they know that there's certain jobs that they ain't gonna do, but they're gonna sit up and turn to us and say, well, you still have to. They know that poverty is still hated by these ladies and that wealth is still demanded. They understand this. And so they look at us and they say, wow, you still have to be, financially speaking, the man in a world in which most men aren't even wealthy, or even middle class for that matter. In a world in which poverty abounds, you still got to be, financially speaking, a man. And to make matters worse, you got to live in a country where you are systematically impoverished to begin with. And you got everything going against you not being poor. They are looking and saying this. So if they're thinking about the sister, they're also thinking about you with some sort of sympathy, because they realize what you got to deal with. And they know that's not fair. They understand that it's not. And as a matter of fact, oftentimes they look and they say, well, you know what, this is exactly what we don't want to deal with. So there's some cases where there's some men that can make sure that this won't take root in their families while they're alive, because they understand how wrong this is. So anyway, Megan Thee Stallion is going through what she's going through, hobbling on one foot because of what? And saying she is complaining about the protection she didn't get because of what? Because her protection turned on her. She was with them because she felt like, as many sisters in the States and Canada and the UK feel, she felt like anything less negatively stereotypical could not protect her. So you listening under the sound of my voice are listening because you will not fit those negative stereotypes. And that's why she feels that you can't protect her. You never can. You'll always be inadequate. All the time. Every time. That's in her mindset. She believes this stuff. You cannot protect someone that judges your manhood by you fitting your enemy's most negative stereotypes of you. You never could. But see, she's not looking for actual protection, so to speak, when she's not starting anything. She's looking for an attack dog, and she got that, and she's mad because that attack dog attacked her. Don't fall for that. Don't let anybody come and tell you any of this stuff. First thing that came out about Tory Lanez when he did shoot her was his height. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who she was until the shooting incident. But his height was known after the shooting incident, because that's funny. Because it's okay. Because it's fine to sit up and make jokes about men's height that it's not okay to make about women's weight, or her mustache, or her beard, or her goatee. What I'm saying is that if they actually have, it's funny because if they actually have facial hair, and you make jokes about that, you're an insensitive bastard. You simply you don't go past a certain height. It's not your fault. You had no control over it. And all of a sudden, it's okay for them to talk about you for being less manly. And I would even venture that your finances are not completely in your control. It takes some work and intelligence and some luck as well. And if your luck is bad, your work and intelligence will not get you beyond poverty. And they'll make fun of you for that. Now, you can't do that to them, but they can do this to you. So what I want you to understand is that the type of protection that other men offer is at least an attempt at a safe environment where they don't have to face these things unless they provoke them or your luck is really bad. And that's the kind of protection that you can offer Boomshik and Bonquisha and Sapphire, and they will scoff at you for it. And that's why it is that you would be a damn fool to sit up here and repeat these lines about the protection that you don't offer that other men do. Other men don't really offer that. They don't offer the protection in the form of I'm going to carry a gun around all the time and I'm going to bark and growl at everybody and intimidate them. That's not the protection they offer. The protection they offer is, if they can get it, a safe home in a safe environment where this type of stuff is not an issue. Where residents in a zip code, and that's assuming that they can get it because every man can't. But the protection they'll usually offer is going to be as a last resort, which he's looking for. Yeah, the bark and the growling, but that's as a last resort. But first, it is surrounded by residents in a zip code from which, if you have to call 911, the cops are showing up quickly. That is the protection that is normally offered. And if you have offered that as the first layer, and the second layer is going to be your pistol loaded, pointed at an offender's or an attacker's head or body or vital organs at some point, then you have already done right. If you are willing to pull a gun to defend someone that needs it, you have every right to say to them, the first level of protection is going to be here in this safe environment. With firearms ready. The first level is not going to be out there in that dangerous environment where you're walking around just feeling like you got an attack dog scaring everybody. Because if she demands that type of those conditions in order to feel safe, trust me, she's not really looking for safety. She's looking for dominance. That's what it is. At that point, you're just a weapon. You're not even a protector. You're a weapon. And that's why I say, look, don't even listen to stuff like this anymore. I hope that what I've said is a benefit and that one day it won't even be necessary anymore. It won't even be true. In the meantime, may it help you. Assalamu alaikum. Black heterosexual male power just because they don't like it.